Hello, my name is Hitendra Patel. I'm the Managing Director of the Global Innovation Management Institute. I'd like to welcome you and join our vision and our mission of the Institute. Our vision is to democratize innovation everywhere, in organizations like universities or corporations, in high schools, in governments. And the idea is to unleash that creativity across the globe. Our mission is much more simpler: to train 1 million people worldwide, certify them, and unleash their creativity and their problem-solving skills to target any problem on this planet. The Global Innovation Management Institute has got certifications for individuals, for corporations, as well as for the government. And the whole idea over here is through certifications, people have the right to practice innovation. Through certifications, we create a roadmap for how to get better and improve as we get level 1 certificate to level 2 to level 3. We are today working with the Dubai government, the Qatar government, across Colombia, in Brazil, in the United States, helping these institutes and these countries become better in terms of their innovation journeys. We're working with corporations, giving them roadmaps, how they can go from level 1 to level 2. And we're giving certificates to individuals as they go from level 1, 2, 3, and 4 in terms of how they can actually innovate themselves, how they can innovate in teams, and how they can innovate in a company.
We've worked with several innovation consultancies, and we found the GIMI methodology to be able to help us democratize innovation very quickly across large groups of people.
Curriculum isn't enough anymore. We need to really be finding ways to expand the school into the community and bring the communities into the school. And design thinking and the GIMI impact model is what's going to help do that. I think that we really need to start looking for authentic, experiential learning opportunities for our students. And this is a really great framework that teachers can use that makes it easy to do.
The value that we see being part of the GIMI program is that we can offer capability building for students, for professionals, for corporations, and that's really exciting to be able to create a language that can help everybody connect with what strategic innovation is.
Today we've got 25 countries who are partners of the Global Innovation Management Institute. We'd like to see all 195 plus countries becoming part of this institute. So we are looking for training partners across the globe. We're looking for university partners in every one of those countries so they can be part of our network. And we would like to see companies and corporations around the world all embracing the certification programs of GIMI. And as a result, we can target any problem and we can solve any problem. Join us on our mission through certificates to give people the right to practice and a roadmap of how to improve.
You should unmute yourself, Hitendra.
Yeah. So, first of all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. The Global Innovation Management Institute runs a weekly think tank meeting where we invite speakers to talk about trends of what's going to happen next in the future, innovation management techniques, and what's happening in specific ecosystems in different countries or different environments like universities, corporations, and other places. Today, we have a fantastic speaker and a colleague and a friend, Travis Kahle, will be speaking today on his educator from the University of Charleston. He's the director of the Innovation Center, and he has been leading innovation and spreading innovation in the Appalachia region for the last many years, and through specific programs, and it's usually through programs that he's been able to do things at scale. Lots of people, lots of startups, lots of small companies, and driving them through a creativity and ideation and innovation process to be able to drive innovation. This is a true partnership between universities, individual entrepreneurs, and also local community SMEs, all collaborating together to create an innovation system, an innovation ecosystem to be able to do a lot more. Let's get Dr. Travis over here and we can talk about his background and whether his education from Indiana and his MBA from Kentucky, and ask him a few questions. Travis, how are you?
I'm doing well, HP. How are you?
Good to see you. Travis, when did the innovation bug hit you? Was it in grade school, high school? during your college in Indiana, or was it in your MBA at Kentucky?
Yeah, it hit me as a child, but I didn't realize that until later in life, if that makes any sense. I was able to go back and kind of trace my journey and see how I was being innovative even when I was younger. But it formally hit me when I started working at the University of Charleston several years ago. We have an innovation center here, which I'm now fortunate enough to be the director of the innovation center. At the time, I was the director of career services, and I always admired what they were doing in the innovation center. And that I guess is really when it hit me, like, oh, this innovation thing is really interesting.
Very good. And then during your career path, what did you notice about individuals and their ability to do innovation? And when did you realize that it can be coached, it can be taught, it can improve the innovation quotient of individuals? When was that aha moment that you got and say, hey, let's build systems and programs?
Yeah. So I believe most people, at least most people who are in some sort of leadership position, have a ability to be innovative. But what we find out is when you mention innovation, most people think, oh, a new phone, right? That's innovative, or a new technology. But innovation goes so much larger. So when I became the director of the Innovation Center here at UC, they had already been using the IAOIP framework, which eventually, of course, got folded into GIMI after the merger there last year, a couple of years ago. So that IAOIP framework is what I was initially introduced to in knowing that this stuff can be taught to people. You know, there's a system in place.
Excellent. So I think a lot of people are interested in knowing how a university is working in terms of inspiring students to think about what's next, what else, inspiring students to take action on those ideas and seizing the moment and getting started and everything else. And this is a big revolution across all universities. All universities are putting in the entrepreneurship center and innovation center now. 10 years ago, they didn't exist. Then they're beginning to, so they're really interested in what you're going to share with them, of course, and learn from you and take notes, of course. And then inside here, I think, Travis, one of the other parts of this is there's an ecosystem of universities we can connect to each other also. Mm-hmm. And so there's a connection of a bigger ecosystem of not just your universities. And I hope you'll talk a little bit about that also for our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So Travis, I'm going to give you the floor. You have the next 30 minutes. For the audience, please listening in, put your questions in the chat. Put your hand up when the time comes for the Q&A, and then we can have some very dynamic conversation after a 20 to 30-minute presentation from Travis. Professor Kahle, you have the floor.
Thank you, HP. I really appreciate this opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see the presentation here. All right. So hopefully, does everybody see that coming through okay? Yeah.
We are seeing the second screen.
Oh, hold on just a second. Let me, you know, when we did this, when we tried this earlier, it didn't do this. Let's try this again. Hold on. How about now?
Yes, it's perfect. Yes.
Okay, yeah. It didn't do that at the beginning. See, this is all about learning, HP. It's all, you never stop learning. Yeah, no, I'm very excited, honored to be part of the GIMI Think Tank. Since becoming part of GIMI, I've logged on to several of these think tank discussions and always found them to be really insightful. So opportunity to present today, I was really happy to be able to talk about a topic that's important to me, which is innovation through play. Innovation is serious business. And I think everybody on this call knows that businesses move forward by way of innovation. If you don't innovate, you get passed up. And if you get passed up, you slowly die in the business world. So innovation is serious. However, innovation is creative. It's fun. We get to use our imaginations. So I hope that through today's presentation, that you'll always remember that when you're innovating, to enjoy it and to have some fun. So I'm going to talk in a little bit more detail right now about my journey in innovation. So I really appreciate that introduction, HP, because as I mentioned earlier, I was innovative, I believe, at an early age, but I didn't really realize it until later in life. And so let me explain that. I always enjoyed creating things as a child, but not necessarily building things. So those of us who are engineers, I know my colleague Dave Ramsberg's on the call. He's an electrical engineer. Engineers are great with building things. I wasn't necessarily really crafty. I mean, I could build a few things, but that wasn't, necessarily what I like to create. I like to write. I like to tell stories. I like to create programs and things like that. So when I was a child, in my early years, when I was in elementary and middle school, I used to spend 2 weeks every summer at my grandmother's house in Virginia. Now, she lived in Marion, Virginia. It's a small town. It's way up in the Blue Ridge Mountains, kind of in the southwestern part of Virginia. If you've ever been there, it's a beautiful place. There was a creek that ran behind her house, and I loved playing in the creek. I'd go down there and try to catch minnows and crawdads and all sorts of things. I love to fish, and so I would catch these crawdads, and I don't know. And by the way, crawdads, that's our Appalachian term for that. Crayfish would be the other thing that you might hear. But, these little things, they look like little miniature lobsters, right? So I have no idea where this idea came from. I don't know if I saw this somewhere or if it just sort of hit me as I saw the crawdad swimming in the creek. But I thought, I bet you could race these things. So I literally built this. It was about 5 feet wide. It was an actual round racetrack in my grandma's backyard. I called it the Marion International Crawdad Raceway. And you can see the program there. That was my program that I created for the championship in 1996. So I drew it out. I wrote it. I wrote several stories for the program, and so I had a lot of fun with that. Of course, my audience was like my grandma, my aunt, and a couple other family members. So I didn't have a very big audience, but that was one of the first instances where I actually just created something from the ground up. And so innovation has been in my blood for a long time. When I was 13 years old, my dad took me to a bluegrass music concert. And I just fell in love with it. I thought it was just, I loved it. I loved the singing, the harmony, the playing was very intricate and just wowed me. And I thought, man, I'd love to learn how to play something. And so I had a buddy in school who also was a fan of bluegrass. He wanted to play the bass. And I thought, okay, well, if you're going to play the bass, I'll play the banjo. And then, eventually we'll go find a guitar player and a fiddle player. So I started learning how to play the banjo. And the banjo taught me so much. I fell in love with it. I'd practice for hours every day. And eventually, as you'll find out later, I never would consider myself a professional banjo player, but I did record a couple of albums. But I learned so much through the banjo. There's so much innovation in the banjo. So historians have traced the evolution of the banjo. It came over from Africa, actually, with the slaves in America. And the banjo, there are instruments that look exactly like a banjo in paintings from the 1850s and 1860s. And originally the banjo, in its early days, when it wasn't called a banjo, but it was basically a banjo, it was made out of a dried gourd. Well, dried gourds are not very consistent. So one way that the banjo was innovated early on was that the size was standardized. So the size of the head, which is that part there, the white part that you can see in the picture, the length of the neck was standardized, and that allowed people to have precise tuning, and it allowed manufacturers to produce an instrument that was the exact same every time. So there's the history of banjo is just beyond fascinating. So I encourage you to look that up sometime. But there's so much innovation there, and I learned a lot about innovation through learning music. When I was in high school, we had a graphic arts program, and in the graphic arts program, so this would have been in the very early 2000s, like 1999, 2000, 2001. We learned how to do Photoshop, InDesign, things like that. It's changed a little bit over time, but it basically works the same way. And then we would take our creations and actually make printing plates with them, metal printing plates, and we would operate printing presses. And it was a fascinating process that I learned, and through that I learned that I really loved marketing, and that's why I ended up majoring in college, because we would take orders from people in the county. Other schools would say, "Hey, can you guys print us a basketball program for our basketball team this year?" So we would go into InDesign and design the program. We would create the printing plates, we would print them, and then we would send them back out to the schools that ordered that. So learning that process was really fascinating to me. Now, interestingly, it wasn't too long after that printing presses, at least for small jobs, became somewhat obsolete. There were a lot more digital options that came around in the early 2000s, but still just learning that process was really influential for me. So as I continued on my journey, when I was in college, I was in a creative marketing class, and my professor challenged me to, or it was an assignment for the entire class. He challenged us to design and create something using Photoshop from the ground up. It was supposed to be a real project. And so the thing that I decided to create was an album. I wanted to record a CD. So I actually recorded with some extremely rudimentary equipment. I designed the cover and everything. And I really loved that process. So about a year later after that, I decided to make it more formal. So I got in touch with an actual recording studio and recorded an album. And that's what you see there. It was called The Road Back Home. That picture actually, so that cover, I designed that from the ground up, just using my Photoshop and InDesign skills. It's probably not going to win any awards, but I was really proud of that. That picture there is actually a picture of the road my grandma lives on down in southwestern Virginia. So you can see just a beautiful place, beautiful mountains. But making that album from the ground up, I wrote a few of the songs on there, not the entire album, but I wrote a few of the songs. And songwriting is another form of innovation. If we were just listening to the same songs all the time, we would get pretty bored with it. But songwriting is, of course, a form of innovation, and that's something that I learned. The creative arts really gets your mind working. So if you're not involved in something, I'm not saying you have to go out and play music or you have to draw, but I encourage you, read poetry, listen to different kinds of music. Go out there and really exercise the creative part of your mind, because that's where a lot of ideas, even for business, start to come from. So kind of fast forward a little bit. In my journey after I graduated from college, I eventually started working for a college in the admissions department. And I really, I enjoyed working in admissions, and I thought, I would really like to make a career out of working in a college. So I went back to school to get my Doctor of Executive Leadership. And that was actually here at the University of Charleston before I started working here. That taught me a lot about leadership, obviously from a very theoretical standpoint. But one thing that really stood out to me in my studies was the influence that leaders have on the creativity and innovation of their firms. If the leader doesn't, endorse certification up top, then the rest of the organization's not necessarily going to follow suit. So the role of leadership and innovation is extremely important. Around age 37, I found myself working for West Virginia State University as their executive director of career services. And somebody who worked in my office said, hey, last year I got my certification in Lego Serious Play. And I said, what? Lego Serious Play? I said, that sounds really interesting. I like Legos, but what is this? And he told me about it. And I thought, wow, we could apply this to our student programs and to our external programs. So obviously that's going to be the bulk of this presentation. So I'm not going to talk any more about that right now, but we'll talk about that in a moment. And finally, kind of bring us up to present day, I returned to UC in 2023 to become the director of the Innovation Center. There's a picture of our Innovation Center, beautiful building we're lucky to have here. And as we got involved with IAOIP and then with GIMI, I learned about the Certified Innovation Professional Program. And myself and some of my colleagues here, and again, some of them here on the call, we got our level 1 and 2 certification and began working on our level 3. I've still got a little work to do on my level 3, so Arilla, I will have that soon. So, but it's but working on that right now. But that's been a wonderful process that has showed me just the framework for putting innovation in place inside an organization. It's really highly encourage that and endorse it. So that's my journey with innovation up to present day. So what can I take away from that? And so one is just innovation is everywhere in everything. The clothes you wear, the food you eat, music you listen to, the way that you do business, technology, it's everywhere. If you turn back the clock 100 years, 150 years, everything would be so much different. So why is it different today? Well, it's because people have engaged in innovation. That's what's pushed society forward. Innovation is path dependent. So that's a term we've stolen from evolutionary science, but path dependency means that the current state of something is dependent on what has happened before that. So the reason that I got involved or interested in marketing, right, was because of what I did in high school in the graphic arts class. And the reason that I was, able to apply my musical skills and actually create an album was dependent on the skills I had learned in college and high school. So all those things were sort of interwoven together. And that has played a part in, who I am today and the skills that I have today. And innovation is applying existing concepts in a new way. To take a phrase from the book of Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun. And that's true today. So there's really like, we can think of completely new things, but even what we consider to be completely new is probably that seed was planted long ago by somebody else. So innovation is dependent on other people. It's dependent on existing ideas. So it's really important for us to pay attention to history and to see how things have evolved over time. So those are the takeaways from my journey. And that brings us up to what I really want to talk about today, which is the Lego Serious Play method and how innovation really shows out through that method. So this is a bag of Lego bricks. This is what we call a window bag. So if you were to go on the Lego website and order what's called window bags for the Lego Serious Play workshops, this is what you're going to come up with. There's about 50 bricks in there, pretty much random. There's long bricks, there's flat bricks, there's thick bricks. There's one of those little minifigures in there. So my question is, what can you do with these? It's just a collection of random bricks, right? So just think about that for a second. Just what can you do with a collection of random bricks like that? Okay. So I'm going to show you what you might be able to do with bricks like this. So in our Innovation Center, we set out boxes of Legos just for people to kind of toy around with, just for fun, but just to spark creativity as well. These are pictures of things that people have built in the Innovation Center with just collections of random bricks. Not all from that window bag set, but again, just from boxes of the bricks. And it's fascinating to me. Look at this. I mean, the helicopters here, again, somebody built that. I don't know who, because we just set out bricks and let people have fun with it. But I like those helicopters so much, and that plane, that I set them on one of our bookshelves because they just left it out on a table. But think about this on a fundamental level, okay? What are these objects? Yes, I know those are cars, and that's a tower, and that's a helicopter, but what are these on a fundamental level? And if you have a guess, you can unmute yourself and just shout it out. I'm not sure I can see the chat, but you can unmute yourself. Like, what are these on a fundamental level?
Innovative solutions.
Innovative solutions. Okay. I like that. What else? Anything else? Oh, I heard two things there, but I couldn't understand it. Go again.
Modem. It's modem.
Yeah. Yes. What else?
Modem. Modem. They are modem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they are stylized versions of reality.
Aha. Okay. Yes. So you're getting there to what I was hoping somebody would. You're all correct. You're all right. That's right. They're innovative solutions. But what I was wanting to get at on a very deep fundamental level is these are they're models, they're representations of various objects. So you're exactly right. You're correct when you say they're models, they're stylized versions of reality. What you quickly learn with playing with Lego bricks, and is it a child's toy? Of course it is a child's toy. But there's a lot of versions of Legos that aren't as childish, or what, things we might not imagine a kid building. Yeah, you all were exactly right. These are models, and what you quickly learn is if you have enough Lego bricks and the right bricks, you can build anything you want. I want to show you something. So I think you all can see, even though I've got the presentation up, you can still see my face there in the window. So here's something I want to show you. So anybody know who this guy is? Any Star Wars fans out there? Yeah. So there we have Yoda, right? Just built out of nothing but Lego bricks. So I thought that was pretty cool. Let me show you something else. This next thing is something that our students built in the Innovation Center. So anybody played Pac-Man before? This is built out of nothing but Lego bricks. It's a Pac-Man arcade machine. It's really cool. And you can even, like, I don't know if I can do this, but if I turn the crank, you can even see the pieces moving inside it. So not only are Legos just static representations, moving representations.
El pintor.
So
Ya, pero ese le gusta.
anything else? Is there a question there? I heard something. No. So what you learn with little plastic building toys is you can make anything. And oh, by the way, Legos, when they came out about 80-ish years ago, they've been around for about 80 years. One of the things that made Legos so amazing was that they were one of the first building toys that you could put together without glue or screws or anything. The way that the studs fit into the bottoms of other pieces means that you don't need glue. So there's this innovation right there, just in the brick itself. So here's our question. This for Lego Serious Play. If plastic blocks can be used to model tangible objects, why can't you use them to represent intangible things, goals, obstacles, feelings that you have? So we know that Legos they're easy to use. You could set a set of Legos in front of somebody who had never used them before, and within probably 2 or 3 minutes, not even that long, I bet within the first minute, they would realize how to use them. They're intuitive. They're easy to use. They spark inspiration, right? Remember those, the helicopters, the cars, the towers. Those are just things that people came up with out of their own heads. they can be combined in an infinite number of ways. If you have like 2 or 3 Lego bricks, just there's thousands and thousands of ways that you can put those 2 or 3 bricks together. And because of that, they allow for easy construction of metaphorical models. That is what Lego Serious Play is built upon. The Lego pieces are used as metaphors for our goals, our obstacles, our feelings. So if that sounds a little mushy, we'll clarify it here in just a minute. So let me tell you really quickly about the background of Lego Serious Play. Developed in the mid-90s by a couple of professors, Johann Roos and Bart Victor. They were consultants. They did some work for the Lego company. And doing work for the Lego company, you get to see creativity all around you. But even a company as creative as Lego, if you can't figure out what the next model is going to be, you're going to get passed up by other competitors. All you guys have to do, go to Target, Walmart, any kind of store where you can go through a toy aisle, and you'll see competitors for Lego. There's other building toys that look a lot like Legos that aren't Legos. So Lego has to constantly be innovating. That's why they come out with, you know, the Star Wars line. That's why they have, you know, this Pac-Man machine and the other things, you know, that you can build with Legos. They're always thinking about what else they can do. Lego Serious Play is rooted in complex adaptive systems theory and sense making through storytelling. So that, you know, how we make sense of our world, how systems work together. We tell stories to explain things, right? That's how we make sense of anything that happens to us, as we tell stories. Well, guess what? Lego bricks are pretty helpful in helping somebody tell a story. So the original intent of Lego Serious Play was for adult learners to drive engagement. So again, at the very, very early days at the Lego group, they would use the Lego models to try to engage the people at Lego. But of course, it's been extended far beyond that. So training is not performed through Lego, though. It's an open source body of knowledge. So there are third-party providers. I actually got my certification through a company called Play for Business. There's others out there, but had a very good experience with Play for Business. So let me tell you how. Let me tell you how a Lego Serious Play session would work in the traditional sense. Now, this can be modified, but in the traditional sense of Lego Serious Play, you would have a group of about 5 to 8 people, maybe even 10. You don't really want to get too much bigger than that because you want to give each person time to share about whatever they've built. So, you know, if you get much more than like 8 people, it gets a little bit too big. But it's built around challenge questions. I might have a challenge question that says something like, build a model that represents a goal you want to achieve in the first quarter of 2024. Okay, that's hard to wrap your mind around that. You're like, how do I represent a goal just using Lego bricks? Well, work your imagination. Go back to childhood when you were using action figures and just when you were using Legos. I'm sure a lot of us here used Legos when we were kids. You would build something to represent something else. You know, you'd build a model to represent something. You can do the same thing with something like goals. I might say something like, build a model that represents how you feel like your team, the strength of your team. What's the strength of the team you're on? So you build a model that represents that, and then everybody would be asked to share about their model. It's based heavily upon positive psychology. Okay. You don't criticize other people's models. Now, this is not the time. Now, I totally realize that, you know, not to be Pollyanna-ish, you know, that there's a time for criticism, constructive criticism at work. In a Lego Serious Play session, that's not really what we're going for. We're just trying to encourage engagement through the building of models. So every person is asked, you know, the facilitator will say, share about your model. And then what's happened, again, in a traditional Serious Play session, you would ask the group to create a super story. So if you're using if there's a team of 5 to 8 people, who presumably they all work together, you know, at their organization. They would create a story with their pieces. And so I actually have a Lego Serious Play piece that I built in a session one time. So I'll show that up to the camera. So I might say something like, oh, okay, well, this person here in the middle, this little figure, that's me. And I'm holding a flag because I'm the leader of this group that I'm on. And I have to teach them. So on the side, you'll see a ladder. And that represents the people that I'm teaching things to, how they're climbing higher and higher. And I used a lot of different colors in my model because I teach people from a lot of different backgrounds. That's how you might describe a piece. And then the group is going to be challenged with how do all those pieces work together? And that's what you call the super story. That's a traditional Lego Serious Play session. It's fun. It's fun. It might take people a few minutes to buy in. We'll talk about that. But when do you use it and when do you not use it? Well, you can probably see pretty obviously you can use it for team building, just to exercise your problem solving skills, help people develop as a leader. And it can actually be adapted to something like a conference opener or an icebreaker. Obviously, if you were doing that, you wouldn't ask each individual person to explain their model, but you could do that. You could say, hey, build me a model that represents whatever, you know, fill in the blank. And that gets people kind of going in a conference. Don't use it. It's not to be used for sensitive topics or fixing a problem employee. Like if you have a team of 5 people and you have this one problem employee, a Lego Serious Play session is not going to fix that person, okay? It's a better method for helping the team to build camaraderie, joint kind of collective problem solving skills, and not going to help as much in those toxic situations, okay? So as somebody who's I consider myself to be a scholar, I don't like to rely just on anecdotal evidence for things. I also like empirical evidence. And we have that for Lego Serious Play. So Roos and Victor, who created it, they have a wonderful article out there that talks about the science behind it. McCusker in 2020 talked about how to use Lego Serious Play to encourage engagement among diverse teams. So you have people from a lot of different areas. They don't always have the same background, but we can all speak the language of Lego, so to speak. And there's another great article out there about using, and this is from Dan in 2018, about facilitating co-creation inside a classroom. And that's actually where I have used Lego Serious Play the most, is in a classroom setting. So, all right, so moving along here. So I hope that Lego Serious Play sounds fun, but what if people don't buy in, right? So I actually have had this situation happen before. Somebody's asked me to encourage some kind of a session for them, but and then I'll introduce Lego Serious Play as a team building thing, and they're like, I don't know if I really want to do that. They think it's too childish, but guess what? If you go back to your childhood imaginations, that's going to unlock some creativity and innovation and ideas that you might not have had before. So I'm totally okay. Somebody says, I think this is too childish. I said, yeah, I agree with you. It is childish. That's okay. Because you want to think like a child in certain situations, right? And normally, if somebody's a little unsure about it, once they do like one build or one challenge question, they'll come around. But I cannot underemphasize the role of the facilitator. A good facilitator is going to keep everybody on track. They're going to get engagement, and they're going to ask good challenge questions. You don't just want to pick random questions out of the sky. You want to learn about the group, learn about what the group is trying to achieve, and then those are the challenge questions that you want to use. Okay. So we're going to kind of wind down here, but I've been talking mostly about a traditional Lego Serious Play session, but can we extend the concept to other areas? And the answer is absolutely you can, right? That's innovation. That's taking an idea and expanding upon it. So I told you we had bins sitting out in the Innovation Center. That's one of our bins. It's the Lego Idea bin. And just sitting those out, that's where some of those creations came from that I showed you earlier. What about an elementary school workshop? This picture was taken last week. This was a workshop we went to an elementary school here in Kanawha County, West Virginia. And I wanted to show this picture because this girl here started using her Lego. So that's like silly putty that she has there. She took her Lego pieces out and started stamping the silly putty and making designs in it. I said, that's so cool. I wouldn't have thought about using Legos as a stamp, but she had silly putty, she had Legos, and she thought, how can I put these together? I thought that was so cool. So that was an illustration of innovation right there. And again, if you make your challenge question, if you can form that challenge question to be more like a problem solving challenge, maybe. So it's not always asking about a team, like what's your strength, what's your weakness, how can you grow. Maybe you have some problem that you're trying to solve in your organization and you don't know how to do it. Maybe you can get a team together and pose your challenge question in such a way that they could use Lego pieces as metaphors to solve that problem that you're facing. So I stole something else here. So there's some ideas about what you can do with Legos with Lego Serious Play. So I'm going to use something I learned. Hopefully, HP, you appreciate this. Something I learned in the CIP level 1 and 2. So our sandbox, just we're going to call that traditional Lego Serious Play. So how can we extend the model beyond our sandbox, right? Okay, so this is what I just talked about. Maybe some icebreaker activities, some educational workshops. We would call this an adjacent field of play. It's really close to the original concept, but it's a little bit different. Can we take it further? Of course we can. And I don't know what those ideas might be, but you could use Lego bricks and those little window bags, and there's all kinds of different things you could do with your team. These would be a little bit more what we call a distant fields of play. But we can keep pushing the boundaries, right? You can keep pushing the boundaries of what can you do in a corporate setting, in a classroom setting with a building toy. You know, how can you help people to come together, teach them leadership, teach them creativity? So, and I know we're coming down to the end of our time. So in summary here, it's good to exercise your imagination. That's probably the main point that I wanted to bring across here today, is that if you want better innovation, then you're going to have better imagination. A Lego Serious Play can allow you to frame challenges differently. Okay, so instead of just getting people around a conference room table and saying, what are we going to do? Well, you're going to get a lot of crickets, I'm sure. Well, maybe use a Lego Serious Play session to elicit different ideas. And again, research has shown that this is effective. This isn't just me saying this. And it's fun, right? Let's not forget the role of fun in all of this. If you're not having fun at work, then how are you going to get the most out of your employees? I know work isn't always fun. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, sometimes there's things that aren't fun. But if you don't interject a little bit of something to make the job enjoyable, how are you going to get buy-in and how are you going to get ideas? So this is a way to make work fun. And there's my references for anybody who's interested, and I can share this presentation with you. So thank you very much. I've had a lot of fun. I've enjoyed this, and I'm now open to any questions you might have.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. Let's stop presenting slides for a second so we can see faces.
Sure.
Okay. Good. Travis, that was fun. Okay. But let me begin with a question. Simple question is, on one side, I think the message is clear that you can see that people can be very creative by taking a few set of blocks and they can combine them in so many different ways. And therefore, if you have the same knowledge between 2 or 3 people, you can use the same knowledge and somehow combine it in new and different ways to create new and different things. So that's one aha that you get immediately, that from a limited set of blocks, you can combine them in new and different ways. So that should unleash people's thinking for sure. The other part that I learned from what you were sharing in here is the possibilities of building real world prototypes. You're building models, and models become prototypes of what you're imagining in your head. And what's in your head is very hard to communicate to other people. So it's a very fast way to create prototypes that you can share with other people, and they can put another piece on it, another piece on it, and therefore we can co-create and all that. So you can get your ideas out of your head and then get other people to co-create with you. So again, this is fantastic tools in terms of how we can drive the ideas out of people's heads and also drive collaboration and co-creation. Yeah.
And yes, excellent point. We have 3D printers in our innovation center, right? 3D printers are generally considered a form of rapid prototyping. You know, you get an idea onto the 3D printer, but guess what's faster than a 3D printer? Lego blocks. You know, 3D printer is going to take it at a bare minimum 20, 30 minutes to make something. I mean, Legos, you can make it instantly. So that's a excellent point.
Low cost, high speed prototyping, right?
Yep.
So it's brilliant. And in innovation, we talk about fast to failure, fast to experimentation, low cost prototypes. And so we heard all those buzzwords, and this fundamental tools allow me to do a lot of that. I have a different question is adults have been taught all their life to stop being kids. Mm-hmm. They need to dress like adults, and they don't wear shorts anymore. They don't wear sneakers. They don't run. They walk now. Adults walk. Kids run. They don't play with things. They don't smile as much. And you are introducing the very notion that what made kids incredibly creative are the same thing we need to bring back as adults. How do you reset the environment where people come in wearing jackets and ties and they're very formal and they're trying to act? And I want to make sure all of you guys in the audience, you guys are all acting as adults. You're pretending to be adults, but in your heart, you want to be kids. So how do we let these guys become kids again? How do you allow them to be all they can be, which is the best as kids?
That's such a good question. Maybe the best way to answer that is tell you how I got reintroduced to Legos. I hadn't touched a Lego set for 25 years. And about 5-ish years ago, my aunt bought me a Lego model of the White House. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. It sat on my shelf for a few months. I didn't touch it. And then I finally got it down and built it. And I loved it. It was so wonderful. I was like, one, this is fun. Two, it's actually like the Lego book actually gave you facts about the White House when you were building it. It would tell you about the architecture and things like that. And I thought, wow, you know, that you can make anything you want to. And so what Lego has done, they actually make kits for adults, right? That's a good way, just using it. Now there's, you know, I'm of course specifically talking about Legos, but that's a good way is you go in with a very advanced kit, and somebody that's kind of stuffy, you know, maybe that would interest them. You know, they might not be interested in building like these little guys, but they might be interested in building a model of the White House or the Eiffel Tower. And then you can work backwards from that. So when we build things in the Innovation Center, when the students build things, we display those. So people walk in here and they see those. They see the Pac-Man machine up on a shelf. And that sparks their creativity. They're like, I didn't know you could do that with Legos. And I say, yeah, it's amazing what you can do. Let me tell you more about it. So that's.
I want to just connect this because I think there's an incredible creative process that exists in kindergarten.
Yeah.
The kids are creating all the time, working in teams all the time. And the teachers have learned how to facilitate those children to have a wonderful week or a wonderful day. And they walk out with big smiles and proud because they also have this thing called show and tell. All the kids get up and say, look what I did. And they talk about it and present it. And in there, they get confidence, they get feedback, they get a whole bunch of rewards and recognition of a different type that is not the same reward recognition you get in a company.
Yeah.
So what I enjoyed about your presentation was unlocking that creativity that's always in all of us, using not tricks, but using techniques that we have already mastered to a large extent in kindergarten, and then bring it up into the adult environment with the first thing you said was, what's the question? What question? What problem are we solving?
Yeah.
And then in there, using a kindergarten approach, is maybe I'm a Montessori approach of education to do this. So on the back end, do you guys also do show and tells?
Yeah, we do. So those that workshop that I showed you that we did with the elementary school students, they showed us what they built with their Lego kits. You know, we brought some kits for them to play with, but then we said, what else have you guys been building? And they went and they were so proud to show us different things that they had built in their class. Some of them were actually made out of Lego. Some of them weren't, made out of other things. But you're right, is that goes back to that positive psychology, like asking people, what did you do? Show it to me. I want to see it. I'm interested, right? I'm interested in what you've done. That brings out people's just enthusiasm so much.
Perfect. Travis, within the GIMI framework also, you have seen we use the notion, not blocks, we call them dots.
Yeah.
And so blocks and dots are the equivalent of more dots, better dots, connect the dots. And then we talk about connect, reconnect, disconnect, which means assemble, disassemble the Lego blocks.
Yeah.
We talk about working as individuals and then working with pairs and then working with groups. And what in the methodology that you see can be enhanced in either direction, from the Lego play technique for creating ideas and solutions, or the other side from GIMI techniques that you can maybe hybrid into creating a third solution, which is even better.
Wow, that's a good question. So I definitely so you saw that my second to last slide there, how I was showing kind of the expanding through the fields of play. So I definitely, of course, I see the connection there. Legos just happen to be the tool that we use in this methodology to elicit ideas. There are other things you could use. They don't even have to be physical objects. I mean, we can do thought exercises, to elicit different ideas. And but again, Legos are intuitive and they're easy to use and all those things. So it's a good tool. But one thing that I've seen, I don't know if this directly answers your question, but I saw a question in the chat about, like, do you think, this looks like it came from Ian. It says, do you find that Lego Serious Play helps people find more ideas or better ideas? And it's sort of a cop-out answer, but the answer is both. So I've been in sessions before where there's been a very, very quiet team member who doesn't contribute. Like, I know from the manager or the teacher, they told me, like, this person doesn't usually contribute to class. But when we do the Lego Serious Play session, they start talking. They start having ideas. Sometimes they have some of the best ideas that the group has offered, because again, you're quiet, you're introverted or whatever. Sometimes introverted people, things aren't built for them. A lot of times systems aren't built for introverted people, but something like Lego Serious Play or the GIMI methodology, the way it works, can elicit ideas from people. It doesn't matter if you're extroverted, introverted, where you're from, what your background is. Those are universal techniques that can be applied to bring out ideas. So, yeah.
Excellent. So I do think Ian Small, thanks for the questions. One of the questions he also asked is it to your advantage to use fewer props and fewer blocks, and therefore you force people constrained thinking to maybe come up with something that creates some satisfaction, and even with a limited set you can create creative outputs?
Yes. So yes, but one caveat is it depends what you're trying to accomplish. So somebody in Lego Serious Play session might call me or another facilitator and say, I want you to do a full day workshop with my team. That's great. We're going to need a lot of blocks for a full day workshop because at some point people are going to get bored playing with the same block. So you have to bring in something different.
Travis, I want to ask the question. Sorry, I'm watching the time, so I interrupted you. I apologize. I thought you had stopped there.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
The question I have is, as you showed a range of people that you have tried this facilitation techniques with.
Yeah.
Have you worked with small, medium-sized companies or big corporations? And what is their what were the outcomes? Give me, if you have some examples of successes.
Yeah. So I haven't. I've vast majority of the time I've done this has been in educational settings. I have colleagues who have used it. with larger companies. And there are, I forget the statistics, I used to know them off the top of my tongue. A large percentage of Fortune 500 companies have utilized Lego Serious Play. So it is something, it's becoming more popular. It's just one of those things that it takes people a while to get used to, but it has proven to be very successful in large companies, yes.
Travis, I'm going to summarize what I heard, and I'm going to give you a chance to maybe appeal to the audience or whatever as a last statement. I'm going to give you the last minute.
Okay.
So let me just try and summarize what I've heard over here to a large extent. If you really want to get great ideas and get the maximum creativity of people, start off with a very clear challenge question. If you don't have a challenge question, then you'll have all kinds of creativity which may not be directed at the problem you're trying to solve. So always be focused on the question for sure. Then in there, allow people to work alone for a while to put things together and do things. And then allow them to share. Sharing is really important because in the sharing, something happens. One is great minds think alike. You see other people saying, I did the same. And in other cases, you might borrow something from each other as you share. Sharing is really, really good in terms of what you're doing. And then in there also try and make sure that you're driving towards some sort of model. A model that others can see what's in your head. So drive models as much as you can, because that's the prototyping that you're doing. And through the prototyping, you bring ideas to life. Like by doing that. And then share and do a show and tell, present to each other what's going on around that. And somehow it's a very simple sequence of things that you're trying to do, but that unleashes creativity. But on top of that also, and I just want to add to Travis, and Travis, you may agree or disagree, you need to put some mechanisms in place for sure. What we have learned is whatever technique you do for creating ideas requires senior people to be present who kind of say, well done. The show and tell needs an audience of people you love, respect, admire, or they might compensate you for success. So you need your bosses there and other people on the journey as witnesses. Otherwise, the intensity at which people work is a little less. And the pride with which people present is a lot more if somebody's important over there. So you got to make sure that those systems are in place. But what we are saying in summary is, guys, let's become kids again. Let's try and play, and let's go into other parts of our brain that we don't normally use, and allow the impossible, allow the unimaginable, allow for using duct tape for some solution into the Lego play if you have to, whatever it takes. But let's allow people, and without punishing them, to touch every part of the brain versus the one. For the last 21 years of your life, your parents have been telling you, follow the rules. Your teachers have been telling you, just pass the test. And they were all wrong if they wanted innovation. You need to break the rules. You need to make the rules. You need to make mistakes. And you need to make mistakes for the rest of your life if you want to really continue learning. So that's my message. Travis, anything that you want to appeal to these guys around Legos?
I think you did an outstanding job of doing the short summary of this. It's just that's exactly right. Get ideas from everybody. Like if you're in your teams and especially if you're a manager and somebody's not speaking up, go talk to them. Don't just let them sit there quiet. Go figure out what's going on. So please, everybody has the potential to offer good ideas and absolutely, go back to that childlike thinking. Innovation without imagination is really not possible. I don't see how you can be a good innovator without exercising your imagination. So thank you, and appreciate. I have been trying to keep up with the chat. I appreciate all these comments and the conversation y'all have been having in the chat. I'm so glad that this has sparked some ideas.
So Travis is at the University of Charleston. His details will be posted on the chat over here, so you guys can get in touch with him directly. Please reach out to each other, learn how to use these tools and techniques, and then overlay that on a facilitation that allows it to be done well. And inside here, inspire your audience, and great things can be done. We can increase the IQ of people. So please reach out to Travis. Travis, that was a great presentation. I learned a lot. It was fun. And it also reminds me one more time that when I tell my kids to become more serious, maybe I'm wrong. I should let them play a little bit more and maybe stay in college longer, where they can experiment longer and make mistakes longer, versus getting back into this world where we tend to do things on time, on budget, and we get punished for doing things twice. We need to experiment, we need to iterate, we need to learn, and we need to go into other parts of our brain for ideas. And with that, thank you everybody for participating on GIMI Think Tank. And we'll be back next week with another fantastic speaker like Professor Kahle. And it will be we look forward to seeing all of you back again. Thank you.